It's like YouTube, the place where like I want to get to know you. I want to feel you out. I want to know what you about, but I don't want you here as of right now next to me. I don't want you. I want to chill with you. I'm chilling with you, but you're not here because this is YouTube. I'm chilling with you without chilling with you. It's like people are like so selective in random shit, you know, like I want access to this, and that of you, but you can't do this, and that because people's psyches are just so fucking warped with some weird ass distorted entitlement issues where like you could like you do this for me, you're my you're my servant or something like. But obviously like that's why there's high octave contracts and low octave contracts, and within the high octave contracts and low octave contracts, that's a different variable from the different types of approaches of how there's two different fields that have different law systems, and the law system from its own secret balance that has moved from the last age, it's totally shy and unaware to a bigger field, and that bigger field is grounding in itself. So everything is changing, you know. So when I say quote unquote revoluciones, end quote, it's just an energy thing, and that energy is fueling the changes of the energy, is fueling every other category post after that. So the revolution, there could be different revolutions, right? And there always has been a revolution, you know. There always has been it. But it's like even the past revolutions, right? It's just growing into a more amplification of whatever the unique subjective revolution is, and those unique subjective revolutions are growing into other unique subjective revolutions, and it's just a context of revolution, obviously, respectively, but sometimes the obvious isn't so obvious. And I just wanted to come on here because I just wanted to come on here, and in all professionality, right? I might not post this one. I'm not gonna post this one. So I'm just like, I'm like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like hood radish, like just kind of like creeping through the alleyway. But I'm just doing this because like this is my form of Zen. Who am I sponsoring today? Yeah, so sometimes like, the reality, we don't know how the reality is speaking to us. And the reality is speaking to like everybody everybody has their own subjective perception, pretty much. I'm gonna sit down, and within that subjective perception, they're deeming their own subjective perception to think that's what reality really is, when it's not that. It's like your perception of reality, like, and one example is just like you having your own bias, but like a particular bias, not just like an intellectual logical bias, but like a whole like lifestyle disposition bias. And that lifestyle disposition bias, it's closely connected and related to like how you emotionally feel about reality, not how you think about reality. There's a big difference between how you think and feel, and that's what makes you keep going where you're going. And it's like, when random behind the scenes, like low key, quote unquote, like haters behind the scenes, end quote, get this kind of info, they're like, yes, I'm finding out more about him to feel my distortions, like, because this is more, I'm looking at it as more as like an objective standpoint of a different type of spiritual, like, sciences, right? And like different like types of mathematical views, of just energies. And not to jump around points too much, but how people view reality, that's like what people don't necessarily understand is, I understand people's psychological emotional perspectives, and those psychological emotional perspectives, they could as they harbor those feelings and their attitudes and their mentalities within themselves, they could paint their own shit, their own projections upon their nearby gatherings and communities and whatnot. Because how you think and feel, that's not objective reality. But like it's a micro, it's a, something of a sub-objective reality, because you could transfer your false perception, the false perception being an illusion, the illusion being a part of it, and that part having more or less confusion and clarity. That's the illusion, right? And within the illusion, it's like how you feel and think about reality, that's your subjective perspective on a basic level. And from that basic level, a higher, hopefully a higher universal intelligence for real, hopefully it could know, like how that's a thing, you know. It's a thing that it's like that people who have individual, you know, within their just individual steadfast growth process, they might have not reached a particular epiphany of maybe my subjective shit, you know. Maybe they might not have been to the leaf, or to the step, to the transitional step. Maybe there's more to this, you know. Like people have not reached to that transitional step yet, amidst all the energies of change, right? Like people haven't reached that step of maybe there's more to this. And since they haven't reached maybe there's more to this, they're caught up in their own whirlpool of just like, on an unconscious level, what everything they think is right to them, because that's what's right to them, because that's who they are and that's how they're functioning and that's how they're feeling. But one of my main points that I wanted to drive home here was like, people haven't made the transitional step esoterically to maybe there's more to this, because they're caught up in their own mind warping and their mind funk of like, whatever they think and feel of themselves, they think that's the entire truth, which is false, because there's so much other shit they have yet to explore, the future quote unquote infinity end quote. And however they feel and think about that, and however they go against its balance mechanics, the balance mechanics are, you know, computing it back out to them, and they're also like still with their habits and their biases are more or less transforming within whatever rate they're transforming. But just take for an example an individual. They have an individual quote unquote energy stubborn end quote point of view, where they think everything they think and feel is right to them is right about the bigger picture, which is completely false, you know. Because someone like, say like someone, and I'm like, I'm energetically like, I'm kind of guilty of this too, because it's all like on the bigger picture, it's like all is self, you know, all is one, more or less. So it's like we're ultimately healing. As we heal ourselves, we heal the collective. So that's like it's like a paradox of balance. It's a balance paradox kind of, because I'm only reflecting the reality, and the reality is more or less reflecting it back to me based on the individual work I've done and how I could clear and clean my balanced mirror, and seeing how everybody else has their balanced mirror that could be esoterically quote unquote dirty end quote, right? Because I'm only reflecting the reality to a degree, or I'm only upholding some simultaneously, not just reflecting. I'm also refracting, you know, whatever spiritual masculinity really is, you know, and not to be confused with like, you know, surface level, you know, human masculinity. You know, I think human masculinity is just kind of like, you know, kind of leaning towards like kind of like trends of culture shit, as far as spiritual masculinity is fighting for spiritual purpose. So two big different types of masculinities, right? And you could kind of thread that and do your knitting, your esoteric knitting, however you would like to. You could thread that however you want, but like, that's the thing. It's like the masculine path that's been casually kind of just reintroduced. It's not to be it's just within the like finding the neutrality. It's a casual gift. It's a big gift, you know, to get these insights, because the insights are the new door. it's a new door to it's just a new door, you know? It's a new door to just new shit, you know? And within the new door to being new shit, that kind of casual mechanic just there has always been a thing. It's our individual stuff we're going through. Celsius. Like, you know, even before I was born, you know, like there was game shows in like the 70s, right? Game shows of like, are you gonna pick door number 1? Are you gonna pick door number 3? Are you gonna pick door number 5? That type of shit. So like when we're born into the reality, we're taking on our like different combinations of our ancestors' karmas, and not to get lost in like the words, you know, because hopefully we can diffuse the false baggage etymology within the words, because ancestor, like, shout out to the predecessors, like the words are triggering something before the biases and after the biases. They're just doing a casual like they're doing a casual transaction esoterically, psychologically, based on, you know, how the collective is using the word, and how the collective, quote unquote, consciousness, end quote, has used the word, for how it has used the word based on just the recent human civilization within, from the present to the last 50 years, right, to the last 100 years or whatever. Because within that, we've used the language itself as a software, and we're energetically defining it and saying what certain words are to be what they are. And as we're doing that, we don't necessarily know like the original programming. That's the main point right there. We don't know the original programming. And since we don't know the original programming, we have the ladder programming, and we're caught up in the ladder programming, and then we're caught up within that psychological program within the ladder programming, which isn't the original truth within the programming. And you could use any word for an example, and whatever word pops up to your mind, no judgment, right? And like, but that's just like, because obviously there's like a randomness factor as well to like this orderly shit, you know. And the randomness factor, that was the energy that was demonized, but the randomness factor, that is the creativity, right? So there is like these two different types of masculinities in one standard sense. Obviously it's not just two, obviously, but just in a standard sense. And then you could say there's two different types of femininities, right? So like, what would spiritual femininity be? It's kind of coming out of some type of unique chaos, right? Just a unique chaos. And then, you know, surface level femininity is like from the spiritual masculinity and the spiritual femininity that made the micro femininity and the micro masculinity. And between that, it was like the mechanics of order and chaos, and how there was a process of different orders and chaos, that those were like the emissions and the energy offsprings of the spiritual masculinity and spiritual femininity. And now the surface level human masculinity and human femininity is such a thing where we could kind of distill creativity, right, into but more sophisticatedly, like into the human being over the eons of however or wherever or whenever it was and when that the human actually kind of reached its original apex, right? And that's the heaper. That's the heaper right there. That's the heaper. And I say it's the heaper because it's a heap full of like, it's so direct and precise with like, because we are in our individual paths of amnesia and remembering, of an on and off, an esoteric on and off switch of like, it's up to us to remember like, oh shit, the human itself on different dimensions, it already reached a different unique apex. And now the human is kind of like, it's the seed of to become possibly the apex, you know? And like how that, and it's just a big quote unquote energetic dramatic game, end quote, because like anything could happen with the humans, right? So we're all kind of relating to this, like, to this unique, we're all kind of relating to like, if we didn't know this, That doesn't negate the fact that it was still going on as well, you know, and it was still going on, but like and the things that were still going on, it could be new to us, and us perceiving it to be new could be something of a quote unquote new energy slash quote unquote weird energy end quote for the collective. But it doesn't have to be like that, because it's our individual filters that need to be adjusted. Because you know, when you go out into reality and you could just see like other people are just in their own weird shit, projecting that weird shit, and they don't, like, they just don't know what's going on. That's not, it's modern neti. It's not that. It's like, it doesn't have to be like that, but that's your energy contribution, you know. So like, I'm introducing kind of like the human masculinity and the human femininity. What I look at as the surface masculinity is just like kind of like just like the culture shit, you know, the culture shit where like just kind of shaping up, like just kind of like bringing like some type of like structure to you know, shit, you know. And then like the femininity would be like somehow like within like a collective surface level masculinity, and somehow it has its own dynamic of balance. Then quote unquote esoteric creativity and randomness end quote could properly be an energy within vessels such as the human being, right? Because the human being is it's a container for so many different things. So, and I'm not trying to condescend anybody to say like you're new to it. I'm not trying to condescend anybody like, oh, you're new to this. No, we're all new to something. I'm not, because like obviously like this, like just the standard persona. We should just, honestly, we should sometimes, some of us should stop using the word ego, because there's different types of ego, and the word ego could be misleading. The ego is a good thing, you know. It's a thing. It's a component to keep us awake, and it's our character and how we kind of like self-realize, you know, self-respect and dignity and, you know, policy, esoterically speaking. So we could use something like the word persona, right? So the word persona is like, it's the persona could be defensive, obviously, in good reason, obviously, but sometimes it's not obvious. So the persona could be defensive, right? Based on like, and the persona gets defensive by just esoteric disrespect, right? If you get disrespected, then the persona is gonna try to find resiliency. And that's the thing, it has nothing to do with any of these like quote unquote, you know, conscious company hypes, end quote. They know not what they do. Like esoterically, they're in some type of energy agenda where they could disrespect beings without them knowing it. So within them being in that unconscious disrespect, that's why the persona is developing how it's developing. And obviously, like, you know, every day is different, you know. Every day is different. Every day I'm wrestling. So the persona is so there's a chance. That's what I'm kind of saying within like that's the intuitive message I kind of am trying to lean to, is like, and who's to say if there is free will or no free will? That's the thing we could ponder on or not, and whether it matters or not, that's up to you. But what I'm trying to intuitively trying to understand is like, or trying to even like, you know, relate and express to the balance collective, wherever that is like, it seems like within the challenge of survival, the survival dynamic process challenge, whatever, it seems like there's only a chance to reach some type of real liberation, aside from every new age message respectively. Like at the crux of it, it seems like there's just a chance. And how do we go towards that chance? It's constructive information and partnership and emotions, and you know, reciprocation with spiritual shit, you know, real original spiritual shit. So that's the essence of the chance right there. And the chance is everything, because the chance is going to give you the granting. And I'm not claiming to be anything, because obviously I understand how someone could project shit on me. Whether that's true or not, I'm sure there's some truth and false to it. You know, something like an esoteric washing machine, right? It's like there's probably truth and false to it. And that's just the dynamic of 3D life, because it's just like so many different dualities colliding together. But like what I'm trying to understand and express and mean is, it just seems like there's a chance. And one of the original points of this video was like, what kind of darkens our chance, what kind of puts like shade on the chance, is like we could be so caught up in our own biases, where, because some people have the mindset is like, whatever I think and feel goes, whatever I think and feel is correct. That's not necessarily esoterically whole, you know, because if that were so, then you would already be like some type of like appointed person that really has it without just saying it, you know. And maybe that might be a case like on 50,000 years ago, but that's not here, you know. So the surface level like femininity, and the surface level masculinity, and then the spiritual femininity and the spiritual masculinity. I'm not trying to condescend anybody to say that everybody is new to it, and what is quote unquote a particular type of old, end quote, it's endlessly new, because it's like the original ever-changing substance of consciousness. It's simultaneously old and new, because it could never die, it could never grow old, and it could never and it's untouchable. The soul, right? The soul type of shit. So I'm kind of like trying to like intuitively, casually trying to just ground. This is the everlasting substance of consciousness that is most particularly a seed within your unique vessel, with an overall mechanics of consciousness. Because anybody could go within their on and off switch of remembering their relationship to God's original apex humans. Because the apex human, that was a thing like 50,000, quote unquote 50,000 years ago. But that's something of a metaphor, because it's like because time doesn't have to view as how the humans are using time, you know. Time can be used in a whole different way, right? Like time can be used in such a different way where 50,000 years to the humans could be like a day for a different type of being, because they're on a different fucking field of fucking time. So since they're on a different field of fucking time, it's like it's the human that's quote unquote new to it, end quote, and quote unquote old to it, end quote. And it's old to it because a different version of themselves could have been that, but they forgot, because that's their on and off switch, you know. But the on and off switch, I'm not saying it to trying to get one up or one down on anybody. That's just the balance mechanics of it. You know, we're underplaying, we're undermining, we're downplaying, we're negating the original mechanics of shit, you know? The original mechanics of shit. And the original mechanics of shit is like, you know, the balanced crux of the collective message that I'm hearing is like, one part of the 50-50 is like, we need collective harmony. And within the collective harmony, if we're putting energetic eggs in the basket to the collective harmony, then that's 1 out of 2. That's 50 out of 100. And 1 out of 2, 50, 100. So that's 50%. If we're and this is Dharma Supreme. It's Dharma Supreme because it's like energetically, it's simple math. Spiritually speaking, it's like the collective harmony contribution project. It's needed in any yuga, and any yuga has different, ratios of light and dark, obviously. And within that, the progress is fueled and sustained by some type of collective harmony dynamic. So this is God's like secret test, it would seem like, because we can't progress in our individual reality with some type of inkling of collective harmony, right? Because the collective harmony is a different overall energy field that gives us the opportunity to even begin with, for us to even take the first baby step for us to be whatever the fuck that we want to be to begin with. So that's why the collective harmony is important. And there was another title I said earlier in this video of like, so I'll have to re-listen to this one, because there's a title in this video where I was just like, that I would have liked to like title it, and one of the titles was, I think, one would be like, the collective harmony or everlasting substance of consciousness or whatever like that, or spiritual femininity and masculinity simplified, something like that. But just to keep going on with the point here is, I'm gonna walk over here. So gotta know when to. So we underplay like some type of order, and since we underplay that order, the different layers of the mechanics, that's the thing that's making the quality of our life. Every second you breathe, we have a quality of life, whether we have the intelligence to understand that or not. There's a energetic quality to everybody's life. Every fucking gangsta, every fucking hood rat nigga, every fucking tweaker, every fucking vixen, every fucking porn star, every fucking Nephilim, every fucking Ophanum, every fucking Seraphim. There's a quality to their life. There's a quality to their life, and the thing that's making their quality is somehow they're underplaying the mechanics of the universe based on their own individual human subjective bias, and that individual human subjective bias sorry, I just had to smile to him. And that individual human subjective bias is that's our individual challenge of what's enshrouding and clouding our own night cloud. Original open source, thank you very much. And that's an esoteric thing. So that night cloud, that for some reason, that night cloud of us, that has the tendency to want to paint and project and quote unquote, kind of like, some type of metaphysical infection, right? It wants to infect for some reason, just and I just feel like there's a deeper, there's just a deeper purpose we can't understand. Like, there's a deeper purpose we can't understand, because, if the universe knows all this shit, but we don't know that the universe knows all this shit, then from that confusion, the long arduous life of us being in our life, from that confusion, as we're reaching clarity, and it takes 100 years, quote unquote 100 years, a standard human life, right? And I don't know why I said 100 years, but the range of the standard human life is like what? I'll just say 80 years, right? 88 years. From the 80 years of a human life, there's a starting point of confusion to clarity, and from that standard level of confusion to clarity, it's as if the universe intentionally wanted us to be confused. Because once we go from confusion to clarity, that's the whole workings of that's like the essence of transformation, it would seem like. Oh, and now I'm trying to remember the other title of there was a different title. I'll re-listen to it. But the essence of transformation, it's like going from confused to clarity. Because once we're kind of going from confused to clarity, then we're figuring out our own individual solution of what our unique self has to offer as a unique individual solution to nearby other people. And I've said that one a long time ago, but whatever. And as that individual solution is created, then that could be given to the collective. So a different, deeper layer of the collective harmony could be a thing. So your opportunity of whatever the fuck that you want to be could actually be more of a probability and a chance, my nagas. So one thing I've always intuitively understood was and I never necessarily said it, you know? You never know what anybody else knows, but you could kind of know. I never necessarily said it, but it's like, it was always obvious to me. And just because it was obvious to me, that doesn't necessarily mean other people knew it, though, you know? And what was obvious to me was people have their own individual takes on their life. And those people who have individual takes on their life, they think it's true, you know? They think it's the truth. It's not the whole truth. And as they think it's the whole truth, some people think their individual truth is the whole truth. They get kind of that kind of makes the quality of, you know, how they move, that makes the quality of their rate of transition, you know? Because if so what we're really trying to go after here is what we're really trying to go after here is how do we change? How do we transform? Because if we don't know how we change or transform, then we're just going to have the same, you know, programs, and we don't even know what the program is. And that program being oh shit, look at this fucker. He just some judgmental type of shit. It's that's what I'm trying to get at. Is some people it's people are judging because they just they feel incomplete. And from that incompletion, a bunch of different random distortion comes about. But because the subjective perceptions people have, it's the subjective perceptions people have, it's they're thinking that they're using that, and they're thinking that everybody looks at me a certain way based on how they look at me. But that's far from the truth. You're attempting to look at me that way, and you're attempting for everybody else to look at me a similar way as you do because you're caught up in your energetic insecurities and incompletions. And from that, there's fragmented intelligence and confusion and false intelligence and perspectives, because the bigger picture, you can't think and feel for the bigger picture, you know? That's what I'm trying to say. You can't think and feel for the bigger picture. So since you can't think and feel for the bigger picture, there's one more point that wants to be squeezed out. One more point that wants to be squeezed out. So you could do it. You could do it. As you're thinking all of this about me, it's only you that's kind of halting your transformation or not. There's the point right there. That was it, you know. It's only you that's halting, because obviously, like, it's like, so here's an example. It's like someone could judge me, like just any type of fucking viewer, right, could judge my internet shit, which is just fragmentation shit, because that's not real life. That's not the whole life. That's not the universe, you know. But like, say someone, like, just some random viewer could judge my internet shit. They could have a perspective of like why is he doing this? He's just embarrassing himself. Like, oh, look at this guy. He looks stupid. Like, why is he even doing this? They don't know the workings of different things. Everyone's working towards something. It's just work, you know. That's all it is. It's work, and from that work, we're putting ourselves out there. Energetic leaders are putting themselves to some quote-unquote state of vulnerability, end quote, so they could receive the constructive criticism, so a different type of working of energies can keep going on. And at the end of the day, and at the end of the year, and the end of the lifetime, all your subjective perspective biases don't mean shit still. Things are still going to change. Who's going to be the change makers? Who's going to be the real change makers? Who's going to be the real influencers? Who's going to be the real impactors? And at the end of the day, month, 3 months, 3 years from now, all the judgments that you had of me, they ain't going to mean shit. They don't mean shit. They just don't mean shit, dude. But I still get it, you know, how like and you know, it's more simplified and it's more graceful here, because it's like, for me to pinpoint, for me to have some type of quote unquote sympathy, end quote, that we all start from some stage of confusion to clarity, that means I kind of get it, you know. I'm not like knocking it too hard. I'm just like, that's just the harsh mechanics of 3D, you know. Like, and what do I mean by that? Like, people be killing each other over like stupid shit, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Like, shit that doesn't even matter. Dying for a cause that's not them because they sold their soul to something, and they didn't even know what they sold their soul to down the line. Now it's playing out in this 3D, right? Only God can save you. There's one more title I'm trying to recall. I said it in this video though. Let me check the battery. 26. Ooh. So the masculinity, let's go back to the masculinity real quick. The masculinity is like the masculinity is like, we could not like and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, we could have like standard, and this is a gift, you know. Some people could have standard, they could be over masculinized, and as they're over masculinized, they could be just doing that from that polarity, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And from that polarity, then they could go into a different duality of what will they do with them being over masculinized. as they're starting from the polarity of over masculinized, that could be used in so many different ways as they're going through life. But if they don't see the different types of reciprocations of different types of clarity, then that over masculinity, it won't necessarily go towards healthiness, you know? It won't necessarily go towards some type of spiritual hygiene, right? It's just a chance. It's just a gift. It's an experiment, you know? So we're all quote unquote new. We're all quote unquote new. And the on and off switch thing, that's like, you see, like, one of my main points is, like, I'm not trying to condescend anybody when I'm saying, like, none of this is new, you know? But simultaneously, none of this is old, because it's beyond new and old. It eventually everything is pointing towards quote unquote God, end quote. And what is God? God is everything. What is everything? Originally, what is the foundation of everything? It's the everlasting changing substance of consciousness that has a track record of billions of years, and it has its own mechanics, and those are the mechanics that are governing everything before all of the gatekeepers, before all of the fucking planets were even formed. It was that, and that's the thing that's micro subdialized, or it's kind of like micro stratialized, or just kind of micro subsidized. And as it's micro subsidized, that's the thing that we take for granted, and it goes for our head and how we relate to that shit. So I'm gonna end it right there, because I think I got, like, you know, so one of the quote unquote topics of this video was just kind of me relating, seeing how some people have human psychologies. Everybody does, but it could be kind of like, you know, it could be kind of like, you know, it could be kind of ragged, you know, raggedy. And from that raggediness, it's like, we don't understand other people's reasons and purposes, and that's okay. That is okay. You have an awesome life.